What's going on, folks? HeirofCarthage here, and I am back in Total War Warhammer 2, and we are on a neutral site in the Badlands for a clash of two geographic areas of the Warhammer 2 Mortal Empires map. I did this previously, called it Clash of Continents. It's not really continents, okay? So we're just going to call this one, this is going to be the Chaos Waste versus the Darklands. And the Darklands, of course, some of the newer stuff that was added into Mortal Empires with the Shadow and the Blade, and some of the other recent updates. And then, of course, the Chaos Waste we're familiar with since Game 1, though there has been some changes made there. So this matchup is going to pit the Darklands, which is composed of a generic greenskin team. There is not a legendary lord here for the greenskins because the greenskin faction there is not one of the legendary lords. So we did allow the use of greenskins, but they don't get a legendary lord. And then Malice Darkblade is here, representing Hag Grief, who does have a campaign start in the Darklands, technically also in Naggarond, so I guess he kind of fits two bills there. There is a generic dwarf faction here as well, and they're flagged as Kara Zakarak, but it's just a generic dwarf lord, which I think it's Karak Azul that's down there in the Darklands near Clan Eshin. And we do have Clan Eshin, which is represented by Deathmaster Snitch. So that is the composition of the Darklands team, and in terms of who's doing what, the infantry is going to be provided mainly by the Greenskins and the Dark Elves. The Greenskins have 5 units of these Black Orcs, or Blorks, if you will. And then they are led by some Night Goblins who have a nice poison ability to help support the Black Orcs. And then the Dwarves are going to make up the artillery and kind of middle of the formation here. So they've got some miners with blasting charges. They also have some hammers mixed in around the flanks too, kind of back in reserve to provide some uber heavy infantry if needed. And then as for artillery, there are a couple of grudge throwers, one of which is the Goblobber, and they are supporting a couple of dwarf cannons. And then, of course, the leadership of the dwarf army is a dwarf lord, and he has a master engineer supporting the cannons. You can see the infantry here, a couple of warriors, miners with blasting charges, hammers, as I said. And then there are a couple of quarrelers mixed out on the flank. Now, as for Clan Eshin, the leadership is Deathmaster Snitch. In fact, I'm trying to kind of catch where Snitchy is at right now. Here he is over here on this flank. He's supported by an Eshin sorcerer who, as far as spells go, he's got the Black Whirlwind, Vortex, and then Brittle Bone. Pretty cool spells there, as well as Skitter Leap and Toxic Rain here as well. Now, as far as the infantry for Clan Eshin, they've tried to go somewhat fun for lore, which is a lot of ninja rats. They're going to have Death Runners all over, so there are Death Runners. There are also a couple of Poisoned Wind Mortars to provide a little extra range to support the Dwarf teammate here. And then there are some Eshin Triads supporting in the back. And then over here we've got some Skaven Slaves, Slave Spears, and Gutter Runners with Poison hanging out on the flanks. Now, as for Hag Grief's role in this battle, Malice Darkblade is going to be the Lord, of course. He is on his Cold One. And then we've also got him supported with a Sorceress of Fire, and she has Burning Head, and then the Flaming Sword of Ruin. So Burning Head's a nice kind of, I guess, a wind spell. It's a wind spell. So it goes along a line, very good against low armor. And then, of course, the Flaming Sword of Ruin imbues flaming damage for a short period of time while increasing the amount of damage done as well. Now, as for the army for Hag Grief, there are 4 Blackguard of Naggarond, and they are providing support on the flanks and in the rear. And then there are 4 Dread Spears, again providing support on the flanks and the rear. And then 4 Dark Riders with shields to just provide a little bit of mobility as need be. I forgot the Scolder Guard are back here with the dwarves as well. And then, of course, the Greenskins have these couple of big spiders supporting, so a couple of Arachnarok spiders. And that makes up the army of the Darklands. Now, as for the armies from the Chaos Waste, faction-wise, you're going to have the Chaos Warriors led by Prince Sigvald the Magnificent. He is supported by a Chaos Sorcerer, Lord of Shadows. And as far as the spells on that, I'm going to move up and get it to make sure I get it right. We've got a Mind Razor, a Pendulum, and Enfeebling Foe. Enfeebling Foe, of course, weakening an enemy. Penumbral Pendulum is good at taking out a fixed single unit or blob. And then Occam's Mind Razor, good at making a single entity much stronger for a short period of time. Chaos is made up of Marauders up front, and then a much beefier Chaos Warriors with Great Weapon in a second line. And they are going to be supported by some Chaos Spawn and the Weird Spawn, which is a Regiment of Renown Chaos Spawn. Interesting one. Their Armor Sundering. Yeah, so that one's going to be a bit of a mess for anything they get into. And as far, again, Sigvald is the leader. And for Norska, they're going to be led by Throg. Throg has brought a couple of units of Ice Trolls, so love the troll-centric army. And they're going to be supported by a huge line of Skaven Chaff. This is Clan Scryer. Clan Scryer is kind of meant to represent Molder here. They're not exactly in the Chaos Waste, but they're very close, and so that's why you're going to see Clan Scryer, just because their flag looked a little closer to Clan Molder. This is a generic Skaven Warlord here on a Bone Crusher, I believe is what they call that mount, and then he's got a Hell Pit Abomination, because we felt like that Clan Molder would kind of rely on some of these larger monsters, so that's what he's got there, as well as, like I said, all the Chaff Infantry kind of mixed in all throughout, and then the Rat Ogres back here in the back, 3 of those. Now, the other factions from the Chaos Waste, we're going to get the Beastmen in here. Beastmen kind of representing the Warherd of Chaos that comes in whenever you get into Mortal Empires, because the Chaos Waste will spawn that Warherd along with everything that you see from the Chaos Warriors themselves. So there's going to be a row of Ungor herds up front, then some Gore herds behind them, a couple of Ungor raiders, Centaurs with great weapons. They got a Bray Shaman, Lore of Beast, and there's a generic Beast Lord on a chariot as well, and a couple of Harpies up in the air for support. So again, over here, Chaos, Beastmen, Skaven, and we have ourselves a pretty fun little fight. Now, there are a couple of more units far towards the back that I want to cover real quick before we get started. There are some Warhounds with poison back here for Chaos, as well as an Exalted Hero on a Manticore, and then the Skaven have this Plague Priest here on I swear this thing, I forget what it's called, but I think it's a Furnace. If I got it wrong, someone please step in. And then don't forget that we got this Bray Shaman, Lore of Beast supporting. There are Famir warriors dotted throughout with the Norska faction here, and Famir warriors, you got to remember, not only are they, and these ones are the Great Weapon variant right here, but Famir warriors in general are armor sundering, as well as providing a lot of armor piercing, so they're a really good unit at dropping the armor of whatever they're attacking, as well as just being a kind of high damage unit to begin with. Now let's let the battle play out. Obviously the ranged advantage is going to be in favor of Team Darklands. You can see the Poison Wind Mortars and the Dwarf Artillery are going to get started very early, and these are going to be doing some pretty good damage when they score a direct hit. The Poison Wind Mortars right there do indeed get a good hit, and you can see the Grudge Throwers opening up here. They will probably soon retarget. The Dwarf Cannons have plenty of targets of opportunity, like a Hell Pit Abomination. There are lots of target on the other side, and then the Grudge Throwers, of course, would do well to be going after stuff like the Warriors with great weapons or other infantry. Right now, it is targeted on Skaven Slaves, which will be a waste of ammunition. Now, the engagement's going to get started very early here as the Beastmen rush the right flank of the Darklands and are met by a huge bunch of Black Orcs up front. But as they move towards the flank, softer units here, Dread Spears and Skaven Slaves, so they won't be able to hold up for quite as long. So you can see the Beastmen making that move around the flank here with several units of Centaurs. There is Blackguard, of course, and some Hammerers way back in. So it's not completely weak in terms of what's in the back line for Team Darklands. Now the main lines are about to collide. I want to get you all this charge here. It's going to be Ice Trolls coming in to support against the Black Orcs. It's actually a really good pick here. They're going to do tremendous damage as long as they don't lose their leadership. Throg is going to come in with the Rat Ogre, or sorry, the Rat Warlord here on the Bone Crusher, and then the Hell Pit Abomination right in the center as well. Malice will come over to support against Throg and start to try and put a beating on him, and you're going to see a really nice wall going down here as the main engagement gets started, which will affect most of the lines here that have already been engaged. And I want to get over here and show you an interesting engagement that's about to get started. There is a Blackguard of Nagarond out here that is going to come engage the Demon Spew, and they are going to be supported by some Famir warriors that I mentioned earlier, so we'll see how that turns out, what happens, how the Blackguard can hold up if they lose some of their armor. Look at that Pendulum up front, ripping through some Black Orcs. You can see that the main line fell apart for the Skaven, as expected, up against Black Orcs. And then look at this Black Whirlwind over here. It's getting a piece of its own team, but also, oof, yeah, that was a rough one. It got some piece of the Black Orcs, but some Skaven Slaves at the same time. There's a Manticore summon. Things are absolutely bonkers in this battle right now. It is just an all-out brawl all over the map. and the artillery is starting to be silenced by Team Chaos, which is really good news for them. Here's the engagement out here. Look at this, the Blackguard of Nagaron with Plague of Rust and the Famir Warriors. They're down to only 40 armor, and because they are, the Demon Spew are just hacking through them because of their high attack and their poison values. So this Blackguard got in a really bad position, and a second unit had to come reinforce. You can see real problems back here in the back because of the Warhounds and the Centigores. There are another unit of Blackguard here, but they can only stretch so far at the moment. There is some brutal fighting going on. Alright, while all that fighting was going on, where I was swinging around over onto the left flank to catch everything else, Malice had come out to attack Throg, and so this is backed up just a little bit from what you all just saw, so you can see what happened up front. Throg immediately fled the situation because Malice was really putting a whipping on him. And you can see an interesting fight breaking out across the front. This Arachnarok and some other units quickly shutting down the Hell Pit Abomination, but these Norscan Ice Trolls, they're going to be a problem. They're going to cause a lot of damage. Look at that, Rat Ogres busting right through the middle as well. So all the skirmish units in the second lines are already under some tremendous threat. Very nice work on the part of the Chaos Waste team in managing to do a tremendous amount of damage. So you can see a lot going on the battlefield. This is a big fight all over the place. All over the place. So like I said, this is back just a little bit from where we were at previously. Over here where the Ice Trolls were at, the Flaming Sword of Ruin came down from the Fire Sorceress to try and help cut through some of the Ice Trolls, and it looks like it's going to help a little bit. There is a Manticore summon now too, so it's going to get even crazier. Malice got out of position momentarily and got absolutely throttled, and so now he's having to retreat. And now the Fire Sorceress is being attacked by that summoned Manticore and the Bray Shaman, but not before she doesn't put down a huge burning head here that burns through all three Ungor Raiders, as well as a Skaven Slave Spear, an Ungor Herd, and some Marauder Horsemen. So a big play there from the Fire Sorceress, who's lucky to be alive, honestly, but she picked up 166 kills. And I'm going to kind of slow it down just for a minute and kind of give you all another quick view of what's going on the overhead to understand the engagement. Now, the power bar is slightly in favor of the Chaos Waste team here, and I think the main reason for it is because of all the work they're doing in the backlines. Even with the Blackguard of Nagaron there, they've been able to use the Famir Warrior's armor sundering capability, and it helps a lot where it does get put into play. Look at these Blackguard over here. They do have a chevron because they killed a Famir Warrior, and so their kills may be a little bit misleading. There's another Blackguard here pushing units back, but the Rat Ogres busted in just straight from the front, and that was a big play because now there's a lot of problems here for the Darklands team. Some of the Rat Ogres being pushed back momentarily, but it was still a really nice play. And over here, again, the Demon Spew getting some excellent cleanup because the Blackguard over here just don't have enough armor. They're getting picked at by the Shaman Sorcerer Lore of Metal. They're poisoned by the Warhounds and the Demon Spew. It is just a difficult thing. I mean, if the Blackguard doesn't engage this, what will? But it's also a difficult engagement as a general rule here. Now, the Exalted Hero has come in as well, and he's looking to threaten the artillery. I'm going to hit play again. We'll kind of let things play out. I would say over here on the left, the forces of Chaos are doing very well, and pretty soon they will be collapsing in on this flank. There are some hammers and other units here. And then as far as the other flank, is a little bit back and forth because of the burning head, so there is still a pretty good engagement here going for the Chaos Warriors, so they should be able to push through here momentarily. The Black Orcs have held out pretty well on the front, but there's kind of a second push here with all the regrouping units coming back from the Chaos teams, and they are really pushing in now. Malice is going to engage the Exalted Hero here. Malice is a very powerful unit, and the Exalted Hero is going to have his work cut out for him. Plus, Malice can also transform into the demon if need be. The Skaven here just continue to summon in clan rats, doing a really good job of keeping that fight going, and the Black Orcs are just dwindling in numbers. They hit really hard initially, but after all the regrouping and all the specialty units like Ice Trolls and Spawn and everything else that came in, the Black Orcs have just gotten overwhelmed. There's nothing left to help them hold up. The Fire Sorceress almost died in her fight, and then look at this big black whirlwind, and then one last go from the Fire Sorceress who killed herself in the overcast, managed to pick up another 40 or so kills, but died in the process. A lot of work done in mopping up what was here, but the Chaos Force is just breaking through and continuing their push. This Beast Lord is rolling around unchecked. Malice is low on health. Sigvald's pushing in, and Team Chaos Waste is just on a roll here. The Demon Spew just really combined nicely to clean up 2 units of Blackguard. This is an unbelievable value here as they combined with that Metal Sorcerer and the Premier Warriors in an unlikely victory over a unit that would normally own and something like that. So really curious engagement the way that ended up. Whenever the Blackguard were picked, I'm assuming they were never intended to go into that type of fight, but didn't really end up with a whole lot of chance. There is 1 Blackguard unit left over here. It's already racked up a lot of kills and is continuing to fight. That's the only Blackguard unit left. There's very little here. You can see the Orc War Boss got knocked out. Malice is in pretty rough shape. He's going to have to choose his targets wisely. And if he transforms, he'll be very powerful, but of course it's going to be very limited. But with the battle drawing closer to an end here and some desperate help needed, I think we'll see Malice transforming soon. This Deathmaster Snitch alive, but being slammed by a Manticore. The Skaven Warlord is around as well. We will have to hope that he's the Deathmaster if the Darklands are to have any chance. And the Blackguard just have so many choices on where to engage. There's problems with Beastmen over here. There's still units rolling around in the back. There's Chaos Warriors here. We're going to see the transformation of Malice, and he wants some revenge on Throg for having gotten away the first time. Throg gets hit really hard by Malice, and then Throg pops his Foe Seeker and really starts to run because he is getting absolutely ripped apart by a very strong Malice Darkblade at the moment, who has some absurd melee attack, and then his Skaven teammate comes in and saves him. So Throg manages to skid or flee away with the help of his Skaven, and Malice is left with no real good target in the immediate vicinity. Beating up this Plague Priest won't really do a whole lot at the moment. The leadership for the enemies needs to go down, but it's really just too little too late. So the Skaven Warlord will be attacked, but he's also just going to run and then pull some units out. You can see he's going to pull his summons out here to cover his retreat. Malice is a very powerful character. It's just very difficult to tie anything down with him. Whenever anything comes around, when you're Malice, just no one will fight him, right? It's kind of like picking Gotrek. You can pick Gotrek, and you have to be very fortunate to ever get to use him because no one's going to actually come fight you. They're just going to avoid you like the plague. So you can see the fight wrapping up here. There's very little left anywhere other than right here in the center where the Dwarf Lord, what's left of Malice, and the Engineer are fighting away against overwhelming odds. And Throg looks to come back and kind of get his last laugh in this engagement. Even though Malice hurt him very badly, he will be the one getting the win here. Malice is actually about to fade away. Zarkon, I should say. And that is it. So Darklands defeated. The Chaos Waste come out on top of this one. I was actually repping Malice there. I honestly got distracted on multiple fronts and really should have done a lot better job for my team. There was not a whole lot that my Dark Riders could do in this battle. They ended up being a pretty wasteful choice, and I could have potentially brought a lot more infantry that would have been very much more helpful than what we ended up with here. So I don't know, any choices there may have been better than what I ended up with. But as far as Malice goes, he didn't get a lot of kills, but remember, he doused an Exalted Hero. He hurt Throg extremely bad. He was able to get some really key damage done despite being misused a little. Malice is very powerful. The Sorceress of Fire ended up being probably the only unit in my army that really pulled its weight very well. I guess Malice, the Sorceress, and two of the Blackguards picked up a chevron, so they did okay. The Dread Spears had chevrons applied to them already. They didn't really do anything spectacular. Gendrick, my teammate as the Greenskins, fought really bravely along the front lines. He just ended up in a bad situation. Even though he had the support of the Spiders, there was multiple units. We had Fimir Warriors, we had Ice Trolls, you had the Spawn, and you had Lords, and all these things coming in. So there were 2 Spiders to support that main line, but the 2 Spiders can't be everywhere at once. And so the Black Orcs, despite winning initially along the line, just got overwhelmed in the end by the number of monstrous infantry and other things that were plowing in on the front. So a pretty noble job overall, just not able to finish it up. It's a tough one for him. Those Spiders did do some pretty good damage, though. Fiendfire coming in with Clan Eshin, Deathmaster picking up 40 kills. And the support from the Poison Wind mortars at first was very nice. The Death Runners did their best to kind of hold that second line, and the Eshin Triads fought pretty brave in the back as well. They just weren't able to fight everything off, and I mean, they weren't the only one who was struggling. You saw Blackguard getting wrecked back there, that Triads and Death Runners are really going to be struggling. Elizio here with the Dwarves, doing his best to get some damage done with the artillery pieces, and holding in there with his Lords. The Skulder Guard did not pan out this time, though the Peak Gate Guard did manage to crack some skulls there with 102 kills before they went out of the fight. So that is a tough infantry unit indeed. Stormrunner did a great job with Throg here. Really basically just a monstrous infantry support army, which is not a bad way to roll with Throg. You bring in that metal sorcerer, the way that he can... don't be fooled by how important something like Plague of Rust can be in the right engagement. You all saw that engagement where it was a very good use of it. Pulling apart a Blackguard like that in a situation where otherwise that thing would have tanked for a very long time in that fight. But it combined with those Famir warriors, so you had armor sundered and Plague of Rust. And so the Blackguard lost 60 of their armor in that fight, which is absurd. It basically makes them like a regular polearm unit with maybe slightly more damage. They're just really easy to be destroyed by a unit like the Demon Spew that were out there. So that was some great work. Famir warriors are always a fun pick, and then the Ice Trolls. Ice Trolls do a lot of damage against armored infantry, so these guys were well spent against the Greenskin mainline. And you can see that there were chevrons put on them in order to keep their leadership a little higher, because that is a downside of the Ice Trolls. So nice job by Throg here, led by Stormrunner. Unlucky Zombie rolling in with the Clan Molder / Scryer, as you see it here. Fun representation there with the Hell Pit Abominations. Check out the Regiment of Renowned Dwarf Thing Menace here. It was a Dwarf Thing Menace. Barely touched, 114 kills. Talk about a menace. That is absolutely absurd. And then the Chaos Warriors here by Shaggy. So all kinds of good picks here. A lot of the Chaos Warriors were alive at the end of the battle. Not one of them necessarily got a ton of kills, but just the amount of extra forces they had in here. The Exalted Hero did get trucked a bit by Malice, but I mean otherwise really nothing going terribly wrong here for Chaos. It was a very solid pick overall. Monstrous infantry support along with the front line. It's always a good pick because these guys can deal a lot of extra damage and kind of help break up elite infantry units on the other side. And then Namru rolling in with the Beastmen here, getting that early attack, causing some disruption, getting around the flank. I did enjoy watching his Ungor Raiders burn. No offense to him, of course, it's just because I'd hoped that I accomplished something in this battle. But he did a really good job, I think, pressuring with his Beast Lord and his Brave Shaman Lord Beast. The Manticore summon causing a lot of chaos in there. I guess kind of pun intended here because it's chaos waste. And then the Centaurs with great weapons did some really nice work throughout this whole thing as well. So thank you to all who joined. Hope you enjoyed another team battle. This one was so fast and furious. I had to try something a little different there and like watch part of it and then back up and kind of come back and get the rest of it. Hopefully you get an idea of what happened there. But one of the reasons why this battle, for me at least, was so enjoyable is just because it was an all-out crazy brawl. Very fast, very furious. There wasn't a lot of lag in the game, and so it was difficult to keep an eye on everything. That's kind of, to me, why these team battles are fun. They're kind of hard to predict. It's not as easy to understand what your opponents might bring unless you've played with them a whole bunch. Each situation's a little different with the different factions and how people want to support each other, so it just creates a lot of mayhem. And I think for me that's very enjoyable in the sense that it's not exactly super predictable. Anyway, HeirofCarthage signing out for now. Do hope you all enjoyed it. I'll be back with some more Total War Warhammer 2 action in the near future. See you then.